So Samoa have announced their Rugby World Cup 2023 squad, and there are a few changes compared to what we saw for the Pacific nations. Some players missing out, additional players also added in, although for Samoa they still have a few more warm-up games before we get to that World Cup, so some of these names may be changing in the future due to injuries. But looking through at the side, they have got it in alphabetical order. Now I also have what they announced as the pre-Rugby World Cup squad with me, though we will also be looking through at the players who have missed out, although I should mention there is still one more player to be confirmed in this side. So do let me know in the comments who you think out of the players who have missed out, who it's going to be, who gets added in. But from the top, it is Nigel Awong, was playing out on the wing throughout the Pacific Nations Cup. Michael Alalatoa, co-captain for this Rugby World Cup squad, did play the last game of the Pacific Nations Cup, did miss out in the first two games up against Japan and Fiji. I believe at that stage though, they already knew they wanted him in that Rugby World Cup squad. Brian Elena Usi, Paul Alo-Ameli, who did actually get to captain the Samoans in that first game up against Japan, in which they were victorious in a very hard-fought fixture. Iritara Inuri, one of the halfbacks that Samoa have gone with. Should mention at this stage it means that Michael Curry is nowhere to be seen in this Rugby World Cup squad. Next name on the list, it is going to be someone who had a debut in the Pacific Nations Cup. It is So Atala Fa'asa'o. So didn't get a huge amount of game time, but I've seen enough from him to be able to add him into the side. Miracle Whailangi, playing the last game of the Pacific Nations Cup up against Tonga, getting himself a try. He's brilliant for Moana Pasifika, and I look forward to seeing what he can do at this World Cup. Charlie Faumuina, another player who had a debut during this Pacific Nations Cup. They had him coming off the bench at the start of the competition, then in the starting lineup in the game up against Tonga, and he was actually playing loose head prop in that final game, whereas tight head was where he found himself throughout the first two. Now the next name, it's interesting. Ben Lam. So Jack Lamb, nowhere to be seen in this Rugby World Cup squad, but Ben Lam, a man who didn't play throughout the Pacific Nations Cup, now gets that opportunity to come in, play for the Samoans. He will certainly add a lot out on that wing. We have seen him do it for Bordeaux in the top 14. Prior to that, we had seen him at the Hurricanes tearing it up. So I'm excited to see what he can do at international level, unless it is, of course, a typo, and it is supposed to be Jack. We will have to wait and see about that one. Then also Seilala Lamb gets his spot in the squad. No Stacey Ely, another man that I should mention, so perhaps that is the straight switch of Ben Lam for Stacey Ely, although like I mentioned, still one more player to be added in. And based off injuries that we have seen in past games, unfortunately every game of international rugby currently seems to have one or two injuries per team per game. So that does still mean that the players who have missed out on this initial naming could still make their way through to that Rugby World Cup in France. Like this man who debuted in the Pacific Nations Cup, Titi Lamositeli. He is also not in this Rugby World Cup squad. Jordan Lay, Christian Leliafano, he did start the competition extremely well, having 100% kicking accuracy up against Japan. One of those main factors of why the Samoans were able to get that narrow victory was due to that kicking accuracy of Christian Leliafano. So I'm sure he's looking forward to his first World Cup playing for the Samoans. I hope he has a very good competition. Next is Fritz Lee. He did captain them in the second game of the Pacific Nations Cup. D'Angelo Leula did have the kicking tee in the last game of the Pacific Nations Cup up against Tonga, in which Samoa did get themselves the comfortable victory. Stephen Luatua, a man who has a lot of experience playing all around the world. He also played for the ABs back in the day. Now he gets his chance for the Samoans, which does mean Genesis Mamia Lamalo at this point is not in the squad. Also, I should mention no Tim Nanai Williams at this stage, which is quite a surprise. I feel like that was one of the big names that people were expecting to see that they haven't as of yet. Yeah, still that little asterisk at the bottom saying one more additional player to come, so maybe it could be Nanai Williams. Next, Sama Malolo, Tamua Manu, and also Malani Mataval, the 7 superstar. He's come off the bench in both of the last two games, scoring himself a try in that most recent game up against the Tongans. He's got pace, he's got power. Love watching that man on the 7 circuit, and I know he will be a dangerous option for the Samoans throughout this upcoming World Cup, as well as their warm-up games where they will go up against the Barbarians, and then also they have got a game up against the Irish. Then next, a couple more forwards, Theo McFarland and also Alamanda Matanga. No Ray Nuia in this Rugby World Cup squad, which is quite surprising. I would assume maybe it's got to be something to do with an injury, or else I would have thought with the way that he's able to play, the power that he brings, and that accurate line out, that they may have considered giving him the crack. Duncan Paiaua, he was impressive at inside centre throughout the Pacific Nations Cup. Then Taleni Su, Olipano Junior Siltini, Samuel Slade, Lima Sapawanga, a player we didn't really get to see throughout that Pacific Nations Cup, but hopefully we'll be able to gel to the side very nicely, whether or not they play him at 10 rather than D'Angelo Leula. Maybe he transitions to 12. They've got plenty of options and plenty of time to work it out before they head to France for that World Cup. Jordan Taufua, dangerous player, does play in the top 14. Jonathan Tamatene, I remember the start of the Pacific Nations Cup where he was able to get that charge down on the Japanese kicker, managed to get himself that nice early try. Danny Tuala, Latero Tolei, and Chris Vui, he is the other co-captain for the Samoans heading into this World Cup. Just a few other names that they haven't got in this World Cup squad who were named in the pre-World Cup squad. Martini Talapusi, he is nowhere to be seen. Jeffrey Tuamanga Allen, not in there either. And then also Tai Tuimanga, another player that they haven't gone with. But like I mentioned, there is still time. We may see a few changes, and as we find out more changes and get more confirmation on the Samoan World Cup squad, we will be sure to let you all know. But do let me know what you think of their team in the comments down below. Who are the players you're most looking forward to seeing, and who is the player that you think is that last one to be confirmed? But thank you all very much for tuning in. We will be covering all the Samoa's games on the channel, so be sure to check that out. That includes starting lineups when they are announced, also the live commentary for their games. So be sure to hit that subscribe button for more Samoan rugby news. But thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.